Good morning. Today is Wednesday, May 13th, 2020. I'm Caitlin M. Berard, Executive Director for the Manistee DDA. The Manistee DDA's May 13th, 2020 regular meeting being conducted remotely where all members of the Manistee DDA are in separate locations and not at City Hall Council chambers will be called to order by Chair Kyle Mosher shortly. As always, this meeting audio is being recorded and will be broadcast at Manistee TV YouTube channel. The audio will additionally be added to the ManisteeDowntown.com website. There will be no video associated with this meeting, solely audio. The reasons for this is projecting video through Zoom sometimes causes a delay, which makes communication in this scenario difficult and awkward. In just a moment, we will start individually unmuting the microphones of each member of the Manistee DDA. We are unmuting them individually to make sure there is no disturbance audio feedback coming from each one of them. Doing so individually allows us to easily identify the source of the disruptive audio issues. Recording Secretary Kelly McCall is assisting me this morning. You may hear her voice if we have an issue that requires her assistance. This includes her request to repeat motions for clarification. The microphone of all members of the Manistee DDA and myself will always be live unless there is an audio disruption. I will now begin to unmute and check each microphone that will be live during this meeting. As a reminder, the Manistee DDA board members, please clearly state your name before speaking and making a motion or a second. Roll call will be taken by the recording secretary as usual. Good morning, 2013. Who are we speaking with this morning?
Karen Goodman.
Good morning, Karen.
Good morning. I just saw your text.
You're good.
I sent the number.
Thank you. We just started the script, so I'm going to go down the line.
All right.
Good morning, Barry.
Good morning.
Can you hear us correctly?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Good morning, Bruce. Can you hear us well?
Yes.
James, can you hear us well?
I can.
Jody, can you hear us well?
Yep.
Ken, can you hear us well?
Yes, I can.
Tamara, can you hear us well?
I do, thank you.
Thad, can you hear us well?
I can.
Now that activating the microphones is complete, Chair Kyle Mosher will call the meeting to order and will share some additional information about how this meeting and likely Manistee DDA meetings for the foreseeable future will be conducted. Kyle Mosher, are you ready to proceed the meeting?
I am. This is Kyle. Good morning, everybody. It's 8:08 a.m. on May 13. Miss seeing you all. Thanks for joining us. For verification of the board members in attendance, the recording secretary will call for roll call of Manistee DDA board members. Go ahead, Kelly.
Tamara DePonio.
Present.
Barry Lind.
Barry Lind is present.
Kyle Mosher.
Present.
Thad Taylor.
Present.
Jody Walter.
Present.
Karen Goodman.
Here.
James Boudry.
Present.
Bruce Allen.
Yes, here.
Kenneth Urban.
Present.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Moving on, as an important step in preventing the spread of COVID-19 virus, our Governor Gretchen Whitmer issued an executive order authorizing public boards in Michigan to conduct their meetings remotely. This is a critical step to help stop the spread. All aspects of how this meeting is being run follows the Opens Meetings Act as modified by the executive order and has been reviewed by the city attorney. The city of Manistee is taking various steps to do our part during this pandemic, and this is one of them. We need to keep members of the public, our Manistee DDA board and staff healthy. Therefore, no members of the public, Manistee DDA, or staff are present in council chambers. We will now begin the meeting with the agenda, and I believe we have an addition, right, Caitlin?
Correct.
Will you make that addition?
I will move to make the addition to the agenda.
Does everybody have that addition?
The proposal for reinvigoration of River Street.
And this is Stan, I'll second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and I believe we're adding that to item 9 on the agenda with Mark Miller presenting. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Go ahead with a roll call, Kelly.
Tamara DePonio,
Present.
so this is a yes or a no, okay?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
All right. Jody Walter.
Yeah.
Karen Goodman,
Yes.
Bruce Allen,
Yes.
Kyle Mosier,
Yes.
Kenneth Urban,
Aye.
James Boudry,
Yes.
Barry Lind,
Yes.
and Thad Taylor.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Moving on to item 3, public comment. All individuals attending the virtual meeting wait in a virtual waiting room with their microphones muted. When it comes time for public comment, each person waiting in the virtual waiting room will be called individually by the executive director by the last 4 digits of their phone number. Individuals will be asked if they have comment or if they are passing. It is very important that those giving comment have a good connection and noise or whatsoever in the background. Are there any public comments?
We've got some more there, Kyle.
You want me to read all that?
Yes.
It is individuals be asked if they have a comment or if they are passing. It is very important that those giving comment have a good connection and no sound or noise whatsoever in the backgrounds. Televisions and all forms of audio should be muted. Otherwise, there will be disruptive audio. If the issue cannot be corrected by the caller, we will move on to the next person in line. Please be aware for those calling that when they first call in, their full telephone number may be visible for a time on the recording. Although we will work quickly to alter what's displayed so that it is just the last 4 digits of their phone number. We will now take public comments. The agenda topics for those that do not have an agenda are public hearing for the 2020-2021 Manistee DDA budget, consideration of the 2020-2021 Manistee DDA budget, consideration to open a bank account for the Business Development Committee's initiative, Keep the Lights On. The executive director will now take over and accept public comments.
Good morning, Mark. Do you have any additional comments to add this morning?
No, thank you.
Good morning, Nicole. Do you have any additional comments to add this morning?
I don't, thank you.
We're all set, Kyle. Thank you.
Okay. Yep, thank you. Sorry about that. Moving on to the public hearing on the 2020 for the 2020-2021 budget. Manistee DDA fiscal year runs from July 1st through June 30th. A public hearing and adoption are required by City Council before the Manistee DDA board can adopt. These processes must be completed by the charter deadline of May 15. A work session with the City Council on Tuesday, April 14th during the virtual Zoom meeting, and a budget consideration scheduled for later this meeting. Currently, the public has an opportunity to comment on the 2020-2021 budget. No action is anticipated at the conclusion of the public hearing. The executive director will now take over and accept public comments on the 2020-2021 budget.
Good morning, Mark. Do you have any public comments on the 2020-2021 budget?
No, thank you.
Good morning, Nicole. Do you have any comments on the 2020-2021 budget?
I don't.
Thank you. Go ahead, Kyle.
Okay, moving on to item 5. Is there any discussion on the financial statements that were in your packet?
Kyle, this is Barry. Naturally, I do have some questions or comments.
Go ahead.
The first is, it appears to me that not all of the budget amendments that the board has approved are reflected in these reports. And since we're getting close to the end of the year, I just wanted to understand where we are and if we have plans to adopt any final fiscal year budget amendment at our June meeting so that we are not out of budget with any items as we close out the year. And in light of our director's departure, who will be working on that and make sure that that gets done. So that's kind of just a broad first question I have that's triggered by just looking at some of the budget numbers, and I don't think all the things we've approved are reflected in these reports.
Barry, this is Karen. Yeah. Can you expand upon that? I'm looking at the April and it's like, what's missing? I'm not really sure what you're referring to.
My recollection is in February, I think, we approved a bunch of budget adjustments. And one of those in particular I know is the budget adjustment to do the garbage corrals. And there is a line item in the profit and loss for the garbage corrals, but it has a budget amount of 0 next to it. So that's one thing that jumped out at me. But then more broadly, there are a number of categories like legal fees where we're significantly out of budget right now, and that should be cleaned up. And I know legal was one of the ones that we approved. I wasn't able to go back and dig into what number we approved and whether it's the same or if we just need to do another one because more legal bills are coming in. But I just, again, with Caitlin's departure, how are we going to kind of wrap up some of these year-end things?
Great. Thank you, Barry.
Caitlin, have you been in touch with our CPA on any of these items? Or do you know if the bookkeeping is up to date?
I know we've definitely talked about them, so I'm writing these comments because I see what you're talking about, Barry, so I apologize. Thank you for bringing it up. We'll go through those last ones individually again.
Okay.
And I can share that back with the board.
And then on the kind of process part, I guess I would assume that in your absence, that Tamara in her role as treasurer would bring to the board any final budget amendments that would be necessary for the board next month to approve?
Yes.
Or might that be to be determined?
To be determined.
Okay. In reading the minutes of the last meeting, at this section of the meeting, I had made a comment that we were approving budget or financials that had some known discrepancies. And I'm seeing that some of those discrepancies are still here. The one that jumps out at me on the profit and loss, again, is the design committee landscaping item. budget amount is 18,000. I know we've paid the city the 18,000, but the actual is only showing $273. So those 18,000 are somewhere else in the wrong account. So those still need to be cleaned up. And then I think my last comment is there is, as part of our budget the past year, a transfer to property acquisition in the amount of $25,000. When will that be done? And well, I guess just want to make sure that it gets done before the end of the year, and it doesn't fall through the cracks as we transition staff.
I agree with that very comment, Barry. Thank you.
Oh, and then there is one last thing, and it kind of goes into my comment earlier about things that I pointed out in the past that still aren't addressed. Is we're still showing that we have $5,000 in the facade grants checking. And I know the discussion on that is that those dollars have already been spent. They just need to be transferred, and I still don't see that.
Thank you.
And that's all I have.
Thank you, Barry. Is there any other discussion on the budget? I would entertain a motion at this time to accept the financials as presented with Barry's comments and amendments to go to our CPA.
I will make that motion. It's Karen Goodman.
I'll second,
This is
James.
Ted. I'll second the motion.
Okay, so we have a second from James, a motion from Karen Goodman. Any further discussion? Go ahead with the roll call, Kelly.
Okay. Barry Lind,
Yes.
James Boudry,
Yes.
Thad Taylor,
Yes.
Jody Walter,
Yes.
Bruce Allen,
Yes.
Kenneth Urban,
Yes.
Kyle Mosier,
Yes.
Karen Goodman,
Yes.
Tamara DePonio.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, everyone. Moving on to item 6, approval of the April 2020 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion for approval of the April meeting minutes?
Barry Lind makes that motion.
Barry Lind made a motion.
Tamara DePonio seconds.
Thank you, Tamara. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, go ahead, Kelly.
All right. Tamara DePonio,
Yes.
James Boudry,
Yes.
Kenneth Urban,
Yes.
Kyle Mosier,
Yes.
Thad Taylor,
Yes.
Jody Walter,
Yes.
Bruce Allen,
Yes.
Barry Lind,
Yes.
and Karen Goodman.
Yes.
Okay, motion passed.
Thank you, everyone. Moving on to item 7, approval of the 2020-2021 Manistee DDA budget. The Manistee DDA 2020-2021 budget was reviewed and discussed with the Manistee DDA board at February 21, 2020, March 2nd, 2020, March 11, 2020, and April 8th, 2020. The City of Manistee City Council reviewed during the April 14th workshop and approved the budget during the virtual City Council meeting on May 6, 2020. The Manistee DDA budget includes requested City Council goals for 2019-2020, the development and TIF amendment and strategic planning session for the Manistee DDA board, on January 8th, 2020. The layout provides a conversational bond column for future discussion as the projects evolve. Attached is the copy of the Manistee DDA 2020-2021 budget within the City of Manistee budget and capital improvement plan. At this time, the Manistee DDA can approve its portion of this plan. Before I ask for a motion, I just want to ask if there's any discussion or questions on this. Okay. We have a nomination for the approval of the 2020-21 Manistee DDA budget.
This is Jody Walter. I'll make the motion for the approval of the 2020-2021 Manistee DDA budget.
We have a motion on the floor from Jody. Is there a second?
This is Karen Goodman. I'll second it.
Thank you, Karen. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Kelly, go ahead with the roll call.
Okay. Thad Taylor,
Yeah.
Barry Lind,
Yes.
James Boudry,
Yes.
Kyle Mosier,
Yes.
Karen Goodman,
Yes.
Tamara DePonio,
Yes.
Kenneth Urban,
Yes.
Bruce Allen,
Yes.
and Jody Walter.
Yes.
Okay, motion passed.
Thank you. Item 8, consideration of creation of a separate bank account for the Business Development Committee's initiative, Keep the Lights On. The Manistee DDA Business Development Committee would like to offer a private fundraise monthly grant to private businesses in the town to assist with financial monthly costs of the grant. Business Development Committee is requesting permission to set up a separate account for this initiative. Due to how the DDAs are organized, it is more appropriate to have the private funding and public funding separate when providing private grants back to the community. Any discussion on this or any further explanation? Caitlin?
I can go into a little bit more. The Business Development Committee has been approached by other nonprofit entities in the area that residents and community members had reached out to. They're quarantined wherever they are outside of Manistee or in Manistee, and they wanted to know how they could support downtown businesses during this time. There's this gap between grant, state funding, and federal funding and what they can do on a monthly basis from what we're hearing at merchant meetings and through a survey. So the Business Development Committee was approached with this opportunity where members of the community could donate to support their businesses in their community to verify that businesses would make it through COVID-19 precautions and stipulations. So the Business Development Committee has come up with this excellent program that accepts these types of donations and then has a process for appreciating them. It's a monthly opportunity to apply for hard costs. So it can be for utilities, it could be for a mortgage payment, it could be for a rental payment. And the Business Development Committee wants to meet as applications are received so they can have checks go out immediately. Due to how DDAs are kind of organized, it's more appropriate to have them in a separate banking account, but also if we have them go directly from the website, it's less communication between transfers. The money would go directly into those accounts, and Business Development Committee could have a clear point of what they still have available. So they're requesting the separate account so that they can provide these initiatives in which the community is offering to fund at this time.
This is Kyle. Caitlin, would the executive committee of the DDA still administer the account and be the signers on that account?
Yes. This is they're asking permission for the Manistee DDA to authorize the account.
Okay, thanks for the explanation.
So the account
this is
has
Ken
been
Urban.
established?
Go ahead, Ken.
Is there a process, or will there be a process set up to inform the rest of the board about requests for payments out of that fund, and also what payments have been made?
What do you mean by
This is-
payments?
Well, you're offering monthly grants to private businesses. How are we going to know what requests for grants have been made and which grants have been fulfilled?
That will be reported by Business Development Committee, correct?
This is Barry. I kind of have a follow-up on that. And so if this is a regular DDA account with our regular signers, being those on the executive committee, how does those signing the checks know that these funds are authorized? And I guess what is kind of the paper trail for how these get approved and authorized? Because if I'm asked to sign a check, I kind of want to know that it's actually been approved by the appropriate process.
This is Karen. What I would suggest is that people who are applying for this would have to make a short, small kind of request. That request go before their board, the committee, and the committee, signs off it. I mean, literally signs off it, whoever's in the chair of that committee. And then that comes to our director, whoever is producing the check. And then that be attached to the, like an order to write the check. And then the person who signs can see that request, its approval when they sign the check. And then all that can be put into some sort of small report under the committee whenever the board meets.
Hi, this is Tamara.
Go ahead, Tamara.
I'm one of the members of the Business Development Committee, and we were just trying to set this up so that it could move basically very quickly. Again, these are private funds, and we don't want to make this a whole long, process of a person having to receive a check when they are in need of, the funds as quickly as possible. So we were just, we can certainly give something to the DDA as a whole, but the purpose of all of this is to try to get these funds quickly to the people who are in need. So not to have a lot of, we do have a quick application process, and so there would be record of that. Caitlin, I don't know what you want to add.
I was going to authorize checks here, or beginning of the process, similarly to how I would process all DDA checks. So there would still have to be that pay authorization process. There would still have to be signatures. Unless the board does want to help with that process and does want to make it a quicker process, that would be a separate request from the board.
This is Karen. So what I'm understanding is that there is an application process, but you're not going to wait until your committee meets to review those. Somebody will be approving them immediately. So that application should be attached, and that's your paper trail. And then, whoever sends that application on and approves it for payment should put their name on the bottom of it. And then that way, the person who signs will see that when they sign the check. In my experience, Caitlin, you always have a lot of documentation with your checks.
This is Thad. Can I make a comment?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would just suggest, if we haven't done so already, reach out to the city's accountant or CPA and just make sure the process that we have in mind is going to pass muster, because I always get concerned about commingling funds and how do we keep it very distinct and separate so we don't get tripped up in an audit.
Thanks, Thad.
Yeah, I agree. It better have its own little bucket, separate from everything else. Otherwise, we can look at other groups to dump that money into, so that you know, it keeps out of our system, but we still have access to it. I do that with HSCB has funds for the opiate symposium, and so all the money is sitting over there, just sitting. And then when we need it, we contact them.
This is Kyle. I think that was the intention for the separate bank account, and obviously a separate account in our accounting system, QuickBooks, could tell the story pretty clearly. So, any
I think we got it.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? I will entertain a motion at this time.
I'll make that motion.
Motion from Thad.
Tamara DePonio seconds the motion.
Thank you, Tamara. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Kelly.
Okay. Barry Lind,
Yes.
Thad Taylor,
Yes.
Bruce Allen,
Yes.
Jody Walter,
yes,
Karen Goodman,
Yes.
Kyle Mosier,
Yes.
Tamara DePonio.
Yes, and exiting the meeting. Thank you.
Okay. James Boudry
Yes.
and Ken Urban.
Yes.
Okay, motion passed.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 9, new business. We have Mark Miller with us, and I apologize, Mark. I forget what we're calling this item. Could you help me out?
Kyle, this is Thad. Is this in the right spot? I thought we had next was discussion as executive director.
Caitlin, I believe at the beginning of the meeting, or before we got on, we moved it to new business. Is that accurate, Caitlin?
They're both correct. They're both under new business. We added them to number right under, but not everybody's agenda items are numbered this 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. So we do. So you have it as number 9, correct?
So are we good to move ahead with Mark Miller at this time?
Yes.
Okay. Let's unmute Mark. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present and to answer the earlier question. We're calling this the proposal to reinvigorate River Street for business and visitors. In short, you can call it River Street closures, if you want to refer to it in a short form. What we're doing today, presenting this proposal, is trying to get our downtown businesses reopened in a vigorous fashion to help make up for the business losses that have been incurred over the last several months. And when I worked in the Chamber of Commerce, worked on the Michigan Small Business Relief Fund grant opportunity, the $30,000 in grant money from MEDC, part of that application process had losses for the month of March and then projected losses into the next 6 months. They were asked to provide information for the next 6 months, and the losses were staggering to see the loss of revenues. And so we need to help the businesses reopen. We need to figure out ways to get the revenues up so that we can revive and thrive in this environment. So what this idea recognizes, and I'll go over some of the details in a minute, is that there have been changes in how people travel, how they consume goods and services, and we're anticipating some of those changes and some of those desires from members of the public so that we can boost consumer confidence and provide a quality experience. And when you think about marketing, marketing is identifying a good or a service that the public desires and putting that product in front of them. And so what we're trying to do with this is anticipate some of those changes and how people would feel comfortable and they want to experience and have a quality experience, and how we get them to come to Manistee and enjoy what our distinctive assets are. The proposal here provides an authentic, interesting way to enjoy our town, to enjoy River Street. And one of the things that I have, I'm new to town. I've been here since Labor Day, but one of the things I thought was so interesting to me was participating in the sleigh bell parade. And we were at the front of the parade, and when we were finished, of course, the tradition is to file in behind the tree and walk all the way down the street. And it was such a magical experience. I think that people would enjoy doing that quite a bit, and maybe without the horses. I think we've worked on this setup quite a bit. So let me jump into the proposal. We've had some conversations with several folks here about what could be done and how we can provide that authentic experience. The idea here is to periodically, like pick a day. It could be every week, it could be every couple weeks, it could be once a month, but pick a day that we can market the closure and close off portions of downtown so that restaurants could expand outside, go curb and beyond, even into the street, with defined seating areas that they can control. That retail businesses, if they choose, could also define an area and go out into the curb and beyond. And I know that the concept of sidewalk sales for retail is kind of what's kind of imprinted on people, but that particular method would be would cause too much traffic being constricted together. And we've participated in sidewalk sales in the past, and it's not going to allow for social distancing. So if we have the space to spread out, allow people to walk around and respect the guidelines for social distancing, that might give people some comfort and the ability to participate in something outdoors where they might not be confined to indoor space. So those are some of the key points on what we would try to do. Some of the thoughts here that you could cordon off parts of the street to control occupancy, to allow for activities. You can mark down lanes or create lanes for people to walk and have a wide boulevard to walk up and down and allow for space and to go in and out of areas and to go in and out of stores. I mean, the stores are not going to be closed. They're just going to have some outside offerings. We strongly feel that there are ways to accommodate people who may have mobility issues, but we also think that if we work through some of the details, that we'll find that there's adequate parking in the parking lots. So just a quick call to the city gave us some numbers here. There are 11 parking lots with between 300 and 400 spaces. So I think that there's ample opportunity there to create new traffic patterns and to be able to enjoy and walk and stroll through the town. And there's some other things that we can get into in terms of options. that might be required by public health, public safety folks. But those are kind of extreme thoughts, but we could tweak the idea here of closing down River Street to make people feel more comfortable, more safe, or provide an experience that would draw people to Manistee. Also, too, the farmers market could be folded into this process and use sections of River Street to spread out and to be able to allow for that kind of shopping. There are some other ideas here in the proposal that are not related to closing the street. We are seeing that many of the businesses are providing curbside delivery. They could put up sandwich boards or have dedicated loading parking spaces that might encourage people to come in and have a spot in front of the restaurant or retail store so that they can do their business and do it in a way that wouldn't cause them to have to walk a block or so if they're picking something up. We also think that this concept could work with a partial street closure. So half of the street might be blocked off, and then there could be a delivery lane that would allow people to come and do curbside, so we wouldn't curtail any retail opportunities or restaurant opportunities. And so that's the thought. There's opportunity here to create an experience. There's an opportunity to boost the numbers of visitors to Manistee, but to do it in a way that the customer would feel safe and they would feel comfortable walking around, and to have a very unique experience. We don't know how this is going to shake out in terms of what the stores are going to be required to, and the restaurants are required to do. The Chamber is putting out, there's a webinar today on how to reopen restaurants. There's other webinars that are coming. We're going to be providing assistance to businesses on how to get them open. But we don't know all the details yet of what's going to be required. But here's some of the things that we think are going to be in there. Stores and restaurants are going to have a preparedness plan. They're going to have protocols on how to disinfect and clean. You're going to need to communicate standards and what you're doing for the customer. In terms of restaurants, they're going to be at limited occupancy or reconfiguring tables. You see that in some of the states that are opening up. And there's going to be a demand to spread out. And some of these restaurants don't have enough space. And if they're down to 25% capacity or even 50% capacity, it's going to be very hard to make money. Having a single day where they can boost their numbers and have more traffic and have more tables, it might actually help them survive. It might actually help them get through the summer and survive and actually get into a position where they can thrive into the future. So reducing and controlling those occupancy is going to be a key point. And it also is going to make people feel safer. I think that outdoor seating is going to provide that opportunity for folks. You all have the proposal in front of you, I hope. What we're asking to do today is to have a discussion about this proposal. And then ultimately, if the DDA can create a statement of support, it doesn't have to be a written letter. I will rely on Thad to kind of fill in the blanks here, but a statement of support that can be given to the City Council. I think that would be helpful in moving the concept forward, and then we can work on details that are acceptable and nail those down in the future. So I will stop there, Kyle, and ask if there are any questions.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate the time and the effort you've put into this. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Mark?
Mark, this is Ken Urban.
Yes, sir.
One of the things I did not see in the proposal was there are some businesses along River Street who aren't going to expand into the street or the sidewalk space. Insurance agencies, nail salons, the theater. Well, maybe not the theater, but other businesses that don't have either a product that expands into that street space or an interest in expanding into it. I didn't see anything in the proposal that address how those spaces might either be leased or rented by the business itself as a revenue stream or as a way to bring other businesses into the downtown when you have that kind of experience. Could you speak to that?
Well, Ken, that's a great question and a good example of something that no, we haven't thought about how to lease space and how to utilize space. I think this is a detail we should work out, but in terms of an insurance agency or a nail salon, I think that they could potentially see more traffic from walk-by visitors, and if they are open and working within whatever guidelines were handed down to us, I think that they could benefit from the opportunity. If there is space in front of those non-participating shops, stores, storefronts, offices, I think that the city would have a duty to try to put appropriate spaces in front of them to increase commerce and interest in the experience. So it might be that would be a great place. If it's not a restaurant or a retail store that's participating, it could be a different experience, and it could be a different business. So you could have the farmer's market stall in front of or near a business front like was mentioned. So this is a detail I think we need to think about and work on a little bit more. So Ken, I really appreciate the question, but I would anticipate that maybe the city could try to fill the space appropriately, and then or whoever is going to be in charge, but fill that space and then try to make it a unique experience.
Kyle, this is Thad. I'd like to make a comment.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just, I don't have any problems with the concept. Just following up to Ken's idea, the sidewalk and the street are owned by the city, so the individual store owner can't enter into a lease for the property he or she doesn't own. But we would support if there's a store owner that doesn't want to expand outside, that look at opportunities to fill in those gaps.
Thank you, Thad. This is Kyle. I just have one comment, and again, I appreciate the effort that's been put into this and the detail. One concern that I have is closing River Street to through traffic. And I know that you spoke to closing sections or portions or maybe a lane, and I think that's fine. But traditionally, as a retailer, when the street is closed, business is very poor. And even historically with sidewalk sales, we don't close the street for that reason. It was closed years ago, and it was not successful. It was closed several years in a row for sidewalk sales. So I would just encourage the thoroughfare to remain open and get creative around that. For instance, sometimes, at the outpost for sidewalk sales, we'll reserve a couple of parking spots in front of the store to expand and allow for a little bit more pedestrian traffic. But I don't think that we have the concentration and volume of businesses downtown to fill up enough spaces to justify closing, through traffic. So that would be my one comment or concern, but certainly support the creative ideas around this concept.
This is Karen. I'm just going to piggyback off of Kyle because I can recall when, being a restaurant owner down on the West End, when everything got closed down, you got good foot traffic, what kept you busy, but, a lot of our customers would, not come down. I mean, they, because they couldn't get to the restaurant. It was too difficult to walk the distance or whatever for some of them. So though it may increase in some ways, it certainly would hamper in others. So I agree, maybe not to close it all down, but to look at areas like by the marina where we have a large chunk of space that, you could close off and allow for things like, I'd love to see the farmers market, move downtown area instead of the big parking lot. I know it's convenient there, but it's also getting pretty congested. So, things like that. And then, like Kyle said, be creative, use the side streets or whatever we can, or only one lane or something like that. But I love the idea. I hope that we can do something quickly, even, get it going in the next, few months here for the downtown, but yeah, be cautious on how we do it.
Thank you, Ken.
Kyle, if I may jump in with a couple of thoughts to help brainstorm, I greatly appreciate hearing from all of you, and Kyle and Karen, you bring up some really great points, and I'd like to maybe throw something out. This is only a 2 or 3 page document, really. Can't put everything in there, but for conversation purposes, do you envision or could you envision bump outs? So basically little extensions into the street, or at least into the parking spaces that would allow restaurants to have open air seating that was adequately spaced out. And for visualization in the report, there's a couple of things. If you go to page 3, total, that includes the title page, the top left picture from Washington, D.C. has the barricades that have been extended out to allow for an extra lane for runners, bikers, or walkers. That is kind of the concept of what a bump out could do to allow for the restaurants to have some outdoor seating. And that way, I think if you envision that in the concept, you wouldn't necessarily have to close off the street to all traffic. You could have some limitations in terms of parking, but you could provide outdoor seating to those restaurants or to those retailers who felt that was helpful. And I'm thinking that not to single out any. Well, let me just drop it there. I think we'll just leave it there. Anyone who wants to participate could benefit from having a little bit of a carve out. It would constrict traffic slightly and constrict parking opportunities, but you would have the ability to set up seats or retail. And so you might only have a couple of those. Taco About It might do it, or maybe TJ's or the Fillmore. But those would be opportunities to allow them to have the space to increase their occupancy at a time when they may be asked to reduce their occupancy.
Mark, I think.
Go ahead, Karen. This is Kyle. Go ahead.
I was just going to say to Mark, I think that's a great idea. When I think of our downtown, there's one of my favorite places to go is White Plains, New York. And if you've ever been there, they do the same thing. They have a much bigger roadway, but they do the same thing where they bring kind of like these little wrought iron fences into the park or into the road and kind of take up some parking spots. And they're just, you know, you can take them up, down at the end of the day, or you can keep them up, whatever. But, you know, it's just really nice, and it just adds for an ability to kind of walk the street, but yet at the same time have enough seating so that you can sit outside too. And it's really, I love the idea. It's really good.
Thanks.
This is Barry. I just want to throw in that this concept of bump outs, the design committee actually discussed, I'd say 2 years ago now, actually came up with design standards, a proposal patterned after what Ludington does. So a lot of the groundwork has already been done for this. It, at the time, didn't move forward because there really wasn't interest in pushing it through City Council. I think the current situation changes the interest level. So I don't know where all of that work stands, but I'm sure Caitlin might be able to find it in design committee history. But there was a lot of work done on that very topic.
Thank you, Barry. Yeah, I remember that as well. And Mark, I fully support that concept, and I think that the business community downtown Manistee is small enough where we can be nimble and adjust and cater to each individual business needs at their request.
This is Barry again. I kind of want to talk about something else that I guess concern is maybe too strong a word, but I'm cautious about based on historic experiences working with the variety of businesses we have downtown. And that's making sure that whatever process that we're putting together here really involves all of the businesses, and hopefully even to the state that they're driving this. Because when it comes to, I mean, Kyle already mentioned, and Karen, some of the traffic closures, what works good for some businesses doesn't necessarily work well for others. And I really don't want to get caught in a scenario where we're trying to help everybody and then we get negative feedback from business owners that what we're doing is actually hurting them. So I want to make sure that the process really is driven by the businesses, and it's not government coming in and telling them, here's what we think is best for you. And I know with the Merchants Committee now planning on at least meeting every other week, if not weekly, and I don't know how much of this has already gone through a process like that, but I haven't heard that stated yet. I really want to see them driving this so that we really know that we're meeting their needs and not just thinking we're meeting their needs.
Thanks, Barry.
Hi, could I make a comment? This is Bruce Allen.
Absolutely.
I think Barry is right on target there. I would add one other constituency here. In the generation of ideas and a plan going forward, you got to include the health community. The health department has to be out front with the businesses sponsoring this. Otherwise, people aren't going to trust it. And we do not want to get into a conflict in Manistee between the concerns of the health department and the business community. Let's stay away from that. Let's be a trendsetter in cooperative relationships there. The other thing that I would suggest is as we move forward on this, it's going to be, I think, a lot easier for people to get used to if this becomes the new normal rather than just a few days a month. So, you know, we need to find a solution that when people get used to it, they know how to navigate it. I'm talking about people coming in from outside, and it's reliable. You know, they know where to park, they know how to get to businesses, and it's not, you know, navigating a special day. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
Kyle,
this is Karen again.
Go ahead, Karen.
I just want to give a name to Eric. I just want to give a name out from the health department to contact Holly Joseph. She is the public health department's public educator, and her mother used to run the bakery that used to be in the Fillmore's, like their coffee shop area. She owned that building. So Holly has an understanding of the needs of River Street, but also too, she's their health educator, so she could be somebody who's really good for consulting with.
And thank you, Karen. Also, I mean, if you have a food service license, you're expected to comply, you know, with the health department anyway. So all restaurant owners would certainly be aware of that, and that would be on them. Mark, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I just wanted to say that I really appreciate Barry, Bruce, and Karen's thoughts there. And I think, you know, as we move forward, the idea of grabbing work that's already been done, being agile, nimble, and doing something as quickly as possible with the design standards might be the most helpful, because we are now in the middle of May and getting ready for a summer tourism season. If we are able to do something quickly, that would be most helpful to the businesses. And so we want to, and I'm hearing this quite a bit, we want to get open, we want to get open, we want to be reopened. So I think if we can move quickly, as quickly as we can, that would be helpful. But I also hear very strongly, and it's a great suggestion from Bruce, that, you know, as we move forward in talking about reopening businesses, we should be doing that hand in hand with public health professionals, or at least getting their input. I think that's a really great idea, so that we can have in mind that marketing piece I mentioned earlier. What does the public want, and what would they be comfortable with, and then putting the product in front of them. I think if we do that together with public health, that would be wise, and it would help people really succeed. So I just wanted to point that out, and I will. We certainly know who Holly Joseph is, and I think that's a great suggestion to try to work with them a little bit on this proposal. A question for you, Kyle, and for the board is that, you know, this has been great discussion. I hear support or perhaps consensus around the bump outs idea moving forward. So you know, that's very positive, and it's great feedback. Is it possible that we could consider making those, as maybe Bruce was suggesting, maybe more permanent? So it's maybe an investment that say 1 or 2 or 3 of the restaurants do it, and they do it all summer long and have outdoor seating when the weather permits. That might be more, instead of a hit or miss day on a Saturday, whether it's going to rain or not. Maybe that might be an approach to consider. But I'm wondering how the DDA would recommend moving forward then with what I think is a consensus idea here.
This is Kyle. Mark, thank you. Caitlin messaged me, and she's going to look for the design committee's work that was done on this and get that to you. And I think from there, it's if the city's okay with it, the DDA doesn't need to stand in the way. I think that, you know, as a board, we support the concept. There was a fair amount of work put into this on some designs and some ideas for, you know, elevated platforms and that sort of thing for bump outs. So I think if we can get that to you from the design committee, that'd be a great place to start.
Kyle, this is Thad. Can I make a comment?
Yes.
I would recommend that whether it's a design committee working in partnership with the chamber, I don't really care, but to develop a plan so we can present it to council at their first meeting in June, which is, it's a quick turnaround, but it's June 2nd, I believe. And then we would be poised to get this going. So that would be my suggestion. And the way I would see it going is that the chamber, DDA make a recommendation with a proposal, and then we can ask council to support that and leave it up to staff to implement it in a safe manner.
Okay.
And I'd like to add to that really quick, just to show appreciation for Thad's timeline and process there, and just show that we're getting feedback and comments and support throughout this process. I wanted to address your comment, Barry, that the merchants are meeting weekly now via Zoom. And the city, this is the city's initiative to do what they can in those best efforts. And similarly, as we talked earlier about the Business Development Committee, trying to focus on what we can do during this time to help them, even with our limited resources. So this is a topic we are bringing up at that phone conversation weekly, and the merchants will continue to have feedback. We're all kind of building and developing on this together. So in Thad's timeline there, it's a developing plan and it's a developing process, but it's our efforts saying, we hear you, we're not going to be limited at this time, and we're going to do some really dramatic steps to make sure that we're supporting you and show you that we're supporting you in the meantime. I just wanted to address that there are lots of voices contributing to this, putting their feedback, and that it's not limited to just a couple of ideas or a couple of good practices out there.
Thank you, Kate.
This is Ken. I have a question. If we can dig up those bump out work from the design committee, could that be shared with the rest of the DDA?
Yes. Thank you,
Thank you.
Ken, for saying that. I can do that.
Thanks, Kate. Thank you, Thad. Any further discussion on this topic? I don't think we need a formal motion to move forward or to support this.
I think this is Barry. I think we should, especially if we're going to direct resources to work on this for a joint proposal to the city before our next meeting. I think there should be some motion on record that says we support the concept and are assigning people to work on it.
Sounds like a motion to me.
So I will make that motion. This is Barry again.
And what is your motion, Barry?
That the DDA is supportive of taking steps to support the reopening of our downtown, and is directing our executive director and the design committee to work with third parties on presenting a plan to city council at their June 2nd meeting.
Okay, there's a motion from Barry. Thank you. Is there a second?
This is Thad. I'll second that.
Motion from, or sorry, a second from Thad. Any discussion? Hearing none, go ahead, Kelly, with a roll call. Hey, Caitlin, I think Kelly's microphone is muted.
I did that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Karen Goodman. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Karen?
Okay.
Yes.
Things like that. But yeah, otherwise we're doing really well.
Okay. Kyle Mosier,
Yes.
James Boudry,
Yes.
Hard to have
Gary
both of
Lynch?
our marketing meetings
Yes.
canceled, but obviously for very
Thad
good reasons.
Taylor,
And I just think going forward, we don't know how long this virtual meetings will last. But
Thad Taylor,
Yes, I'm having a little trouble hearing. There's some background noise. Sounds like another telephone conversation.
I'm hearing that too. Kenneth Urban,
Yes.
Bruce Allen,
Yes.
Jody Welter.
Yeah.
Hey, did I get everybody?
Did we get James?
James Boudry?
Yeah, you got me.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right.
All right, I'm sorry. Motion passed.
Thank you all. Thank you, Mark, for working on this.
Well, thank you.
Moving on to item 10, discussion of the executive director and Manistee DDA staff replacements. The Manistee DDA executive director has resigned and will be with the board through the month of May 2020. At this time, the Manistee DDA board will discuss next steps in hiring additional staff in the immediate future. I guess I'll start just with discussion, just to get things moving. I've been thinking a bit lately about this a lot, and would like to bring up for discussion which something that's been brought up years past, and looking at the potential to contract this position out potentially to the Chamber of Commerce.
This is Karen. I support that, Kyle. I think that it's an important, something important to consider. This has been, I don't know how many, I think I've been on this board for 2 or 3 years, and it just seems to be an ongoing issue of being able to kind of have a consistency. Caitlin has done a great job in organizing, you know, all of us a lot better, having us more in a real routine. And so, you know, I think it's beneficial to move it over now while it's, you know, doing well. And then also too, it will always supply us some sort of consistency, you know, because there will be somebody at the chamber at all times.
Kyle, this is Stan. Can I make a comment?
Absolutely.
First of all, I would echo Karen's comment about the need for consistency. I've been here about 4.5 years. This is the 3rd executive director that I've worked with. And it seems like when one leaves, it takes us a long time to find a replacement. And in the interim, we have board members serving capacities that I'm certain they didn't sign up for when they committed to joining the board. So I think this is a great move to have a discussion with the chamber. They'll provide us some consistency. It furthers the partnership that we already have with them for economic development. I just think it's a great fit.
Thank you, Thad.
Kyle, this is Jody. If I could make a comment, please.
Please.
I also so the sentiments that you all have brought up. I think that it is it does not reflect well on the DDA to have this revolving door of executive directors coming in and out. And the other thing that I think would really hit home to the city of Manistee is that there is now 2 organizations working together to better the future of the city. So I think it's a great idea to at least have this discussion.
Okay. Thank you, Jody. Would
this is Ken Urban.
Go ahead, Ken. Thank you.
I support having the discussion. My concern is always going, and I agree with what Jody said about the revolving door. My concern is that we make sure that if we contract with somebody, and not just the chamber, but anybody that we would contract this position to, we have to have both very, very clear contractual obligations for what work is going to be executed and to what standard of performance. And if they fail to execute the contract or meet the requirements, then there should be financial consequences to it. Just as none of us would hire a landscaper to come and cut our grass and then pay them even if they didn't do it, the DDA should not fall into that trap with anybody we contract with.
Thanks, Ken. Appreciate the comments.
Go on.
Go ahead, Barry.
Okay, this is Barry. I just want to say that I am very hopeful that under the circumstances that this time, I think will be the 3rd time, but that the 3rd time will be the charm. Because each of our last 2 transitions, the board has taken the approach of pursuing multiple options, including a partnership with or outsourcing to a third party. And each of the last two iterations, we've had, discussions with the chamber, and for a variety of reasons, those didn't materialize to anything. But I think all of the things that have made that a good idea over the last 3 to 4 years still make it a good idea today, and probably under the current circumstances, even more so than in the past. And I definitely think this is an avenue that should be pursued. I echo some of Ken's thoughts on, how to ultimately structure things, but that's the details that can be worked out after you get an agreement in principle. But I think the question we should ask ourselves, and again, from my perspective, because this is what we've done the last 2 times we've pursued this, but both the last 2 times we've also pursued in parallel hire a new director kind of standard process that is ultimately what we've done. And I guess my question would be, do we go in a path where we're only going to pursue outsourcing, or do we do like we've done in the past of kind of have multiple committees pursuing different options and then ultimately going with the best option?
Thank you, Barry. I guess when I looked at this initially, or just thought about it, I was trying to keep it very simple in my mind and just look at it like we're not the employer. Not much else would have to change other than the fact that we, as the DDA board, are not the employer. And it doesn't, obviously when there's a contract involved, there's obligations that need to be met, and they have to, like Ken said, they have to be very clear. Would the board support appointing 2 or 3 people to re-engage the chamber in this conversation? I would be willing to serve on that. The board support something like that to just engage in initial conversations?
This is James. I'm all in for that, for sure. I think you're spot on with the fact that we shouldn't be employers. We're probably not the best employers if we look at our track record with keeping people in this position. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Kyle?
Yes, Karen.
This is Karen. There was like Barry said, there was a significant amount of work to the point where contracts and everything, outcomes, it's kind of like I put together like an RFP, a request for proposal. We kind of outlined outcomes, all kinds of stuff. And we went down that parallel route of, here, you work on this and we'll look at hiring somebody. I found it discouraging to do that because there was a lot of work that went on the one side. I'm sure I wasn't in the hire thing, but maybe I was just kind of overly tired at that time. I don't know, but it's like I put a lot of time, a lot of work. So did the chamber, lots of meetings, and then it's like, well, no, we're not going to go with that. So I think that personally, I would prefer not to be the employer. I would prefer to be the contract agent and have it contracted out. And chamber was rated spot on at the time, and had a lot of detailed stuff they could provide. So I think it would be an easy path to go. And I'm great with you taking that on.
Okay.
Kyle, this is Thad. If I could make a comment.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I would not support having parallel, recruitment, for lack of better terms, recruitment efforts, basically for the reasons that Karen said. There's going to be a lot of time and energy put into it, maybe raise some hopes that we shouldn't raise. I think we should just focus on the chamber and move forward with that. And further, Kyle, to your comment about putting together a committee, I'm comfortable with you repping, and I would suggest that Ken and Bruce round out that committee.
Okay, thanks, Thad.
Can I make a motion that we do that?
I thought that was a motion from you.
Well, that's perfect. Then I'll support that.
No, I thought that was your motion. I'll support your
Oh.
motion.
Oh. Tag, you're it.
I'm hearing a motion from Karen.
Support from Thad.
Okay. Any further discussion or comments? Hearing none, go ahead, Kelly.
Okay. Karen Goodman,
Yes.
Kyle Mosier,
Yes.
James Boudry,
Yes.
Barry Lind,
Yes.
Thad Taylor,
Yes.
Kenneth Urban,
Yes.
Bruce Allen,
Yes.
Jody Walter.
Yeah.
Motion passed.
Thank you. I guess I should ask Bruce and Ken if you accept working with me in approaching the chamber on this. Bruce?
Yes, I volunteer. I volunteer after Thad volunteered me. Yes, I volunteer.
Kenneth?
If I have to work with you, Kyle, I will.
I'm looking forward to it. I will contact both of you. Thank you, everyone. I think we can move on to item 4, board member comments. At this time, the executive director will call each member individually, asking if board members would like to share comments at this time. Go ahead, Caitlin.
Thank you, Kyle. Jody, do you have any comments with us today?
Nope.
Thad, do you have any comments today?
Just 2 quick comments. I'm thankful for the proposal that the chambers put forward and wanting to engage with the DDA about helping the downtown businesses reopen. And I thank the board for taking the direction of at least having some discussions with the chamber about serving as the DDA's executive director. I think those are all key moves.
Thanks, Thad.
Ken, do you have any comments for us today?
I have no comments.
Barry, do you have any comments for us today?
I do have a couple. The first is I'm just realizing that we didn't have on the agenda a discussion of the executive director's report, but it was in the packet. Since the design committee update was part of that report, I just want to add one thing. Even though the design committee has not met, one of our spring projects is behind schedule, partly because we haven't been focusing on it and not meeting, and that is putting up our banners downtown for the summer. Flower baskets and those things are moving forward, but the banners kind of got lost in the cracks. So I've got a meeting later this week to try to get that back on schedule. I'm not anticipating that we will have banners up by Memorial Day weekend, but since we'll still be in lockdown, I think shortly thereafter we can probably get our downtown prettied up again for the summer. So I just wanted to add that to the update. And then I have 2 questions. With regards to the Gateway project and our property on American Cleaners, did our deal close in this period, or are we still owners and kind of waiting for things to settle down?
Thank you for asking, Barry. We are no longer owners of the American Cleaners property.
Okay, that is good to know. I just hadn't heard one way or another that finally closed, so that's good to hear. Thank you. And then my other question is with regards to the other big project that I'm now seeing is moving forward on the West Shore project. At our last in-person meeting, I guess that would have been March, there was a little bit of discussion toward the end of the meeting about proving difficult for the DDA to be financially contributing to that project. And I'm just curious is where that is standing, partly because I saw an email this week from individuals at West Shore asking why we're not moving ahead on things. And I thought we were waiting for them to come up with a plan for us for how we could financially support the project. So I'm just concerned that there's miscommunication going on there. And I just wondered where we stand.
Thanks, Barry. I would echo that. I received similar emails and thought that we put it back on West Shore, but I'm a little bit unclear. Caitlin, do you have any clarification for us?
I have not received a single email regarding any communication in this process, and we've reached out several times, both with George, the city attorney, and myself, and haven't heard a single response. So I apologize. I'm not familiar with the email that you are referring to, but at this time, we haven't been requested past those board conversations before for any additional information or funding at this time.
Okay, I will share that email with you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anything else, Barry?
Nope, those are my questions. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
James, do you have any comments for us today?
This your last DDA meeting?
It is.
You will be missed.
Thank you.
That's it.
Bruce, do you have any comments for us today?
Yeah, I just two. Once again, this is, several meetings in a row that I've been impressed with Barry's attention to detail on catching, financial things that need to be corrected. Thank you, Barry, again. And really nice work on the proposal for downtown. I felt an urge to do something. I think your work is excellent. Keep going. Good luck with the process. We're behind you. Yay.
Thanks, Bruce.
Karen, do you have any comments for us today?
No, I'd just like to echo, that you will be missed. Thank you for all your hard work, Caitlin. You have been a godsend over the year here. And also, too, I'm really excited about this proposal. It's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. And finally, I would like to say as well, Caitlin, thank you for your service and your time with us, and we appreciate it. And good luck in the future. Thanks for all your organizational skills and communication. So,
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. At this time, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion. This is James.
This is Ken Urban. I'll support.
Thank you, Ken. Guys, have a great week.
Thank you.